Hey, and we're back. I'm Jodi Christensen, editor with Black Hare Press, and I'm talking with Pauline Yates, who is the author of Memories Don't Lie. And we're going to kind of switch gears now and talk a little bit about the editing process with her book, and she's going to ask me some questions.
Hi, Jody. Firstly, thank you for editing my book and helping me polish it to where it is today. I really enjoyed your edits that came through.
Thank
And
you.
I can always tell when an editor enjoys when they drop little, gee, I really love this part. I
Yeah,
love that.
we all
There
love
were a
that.
couple of those dropped in.
It's an affirmation that lets us know we're doing our job as an author.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm happy to be able to do that. It's fun to get to tell people, not just everything they have to fix, but the parts that I really love too.
Yeah, look, I think that's important
Yeah.
because when you're a writer and you send your work out to even just to an editor,
Hmm.
you're sitting at home going, "Oh my God, are they going to hate this? Like what if it's really
Yeah.
terrible?"
Yeah.
And yeah, you're just struck with the nerves.
Mhm.
But the good editors will tell you what they don't like and what they do like. And that
Mhm.
is so important, I think, to just get that one
Right.
little smiley face in the comment saying, I really love
Yeah.
this line.
Yeah.
You have no idea how much of a boost that is. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, and especially because, it's a little daunting to look at a novel's worth of edits, and you see all
Yeah,
the red lines on the page and you see the highlighted words and you're thinking, how am I ever going to do all this? It's nice to get those little
yeah.
comments in there because it makes it not feel quite so big,
Yeah, I have
the
learned
work.
over the years. I've worked with a lot of publishers and editors now over the years, and I have learned, as daunting as it may initially look, it's never
Hmm.
usually that bad. And if you just
Right.
step through each comment,
Hmm.
yeah, you suddenly think, oh, I can do this,
Yeah.
because I have been in situations where I thought I cannot do this.
Right.
They're asking things of me which I just don't actually understand what they want,
Right.
and I don't know how to do this. But
Yeah.
so yeah, small steps, little steps.
Yeah.
But at the end, it all comes out. So let's move on because I have some questions for you
Okay.
that I would like to
Okay.
ask.
Fire away. I'm
Okay.
ready.
So my first question for you, because I'm quite curious about the
Okay.
editing process when I first send my manuscript to an editor. As an editor, did you read the whole story before jumping into the edits? And then what was your first reaction after finishing the book?
Okay. So I'll explain a little bit about my process, but yes, I did read it first because I feel like as an editor, if you don't read it first, it's really hard to know the story arc and if the story goes where it's supposed to go. So I'm one who I always read the blurb if I have it, I'll always read the synopsis if I have it, and then I always read the story that I'm editing before I edit. So I read it and my first initial impression, it's not really as much from a reader's point of view as an editor's point of view, because I'm
Yeah.
wanting to see your plot points and wanting to see your story arc, things like that. So then when I reach the end, if I have that feeling of like, oh, everything has come together, then I know that you've done your job and your plot is solid. And that is the feeling that I had when I
Mm,
when I first read the first pass through, like when I just read it. So
yeah.
on that pass, the only time I ever mark anything is if I have a question or a comment about the plot. Then I'll just make a quick little note and move on and keep reading. But that's just kind of a placeholder for me. So
Yeah.
when I actually read it as a reader, is after I've finished all of my edits, I go back and I read again because I want to see, okay, everything that I've suggested, does it flow? Does it mesh? Does it make sense? It's a
Mm,
process. So that's the way that I edit. So I actually
yeah.
make like three passes through the book
Yeah.
because I want to make sure that I've not missed anything. So that last pass is more from a reader because I'm looking for, is everything smooth? Am I so pulled into the story that I'm not even noticing these comments off to the side? I'm just reading, and then I can kind of get a better idea. So
Yeah.
yes, as a reader, I did have that experience of being pulled into the story, but I had that a little bit on the first pass too. It's just that my brain is like, okay, pay attention and make sure,
Yeah.
that you're seeing plot points and you're getting a feel for that story arc. So I don't know, just it depends on the pass, I guess, where I'm at in my
Yeah.
process, if I'm looking at it as an editor or a reader, if
So
that
I
makes sense.
suppose, yeah, with that process of reading it as an editor and then making your edits and reading it again as a reader,
Mhm.
that's all quite time consuming.
It is.
How long did you spend on Memories Don't Lie? Like, did you have a chunk of
Um,
time that you spent on it, or did
I
you do
think
other projects in between?
I generally work on 2 to 3 projects at a time. So I don't do them all in the same day or anything. I tend to work like I would do a chapter or two of one, depending on where my deadlines are at. So I would do a
Yeah,
chapter or two of one and then a chapter or two of something else and so on for the projects that I'm working on. I think overall yours took me maybe 2.5 months, which is
yeah,
pretty standard for that length of a book. It's usually 8 to 10 weeks is about how long it takes.
yeah.
Maybe 12, depending on how much work it needs. Yours wasn't a super hard edit. I would say it was pretty clean, but you said you had editors before it came to Black Hair Press, so
I
that makes a
I did.
difference. Yeah,
I did actually invest in a few editors to get it to
yeah.
publishable stage.
And that's actually really, it
Knowing,
shows, and that's really helpful because then when I'm looking at it for my job for editing for Black Hair Press, I'm seeing the story. I'm not seeing all
yeah,
those little things that need to be done. I'm seeing the story, which is what we want.
yeah. Well, for the benefit of um, listeners out there who are wondering, well, how many edits did I do, or get done?
Yeah.
Um, I actually went through 3 editors.
Hmm.
My first editor, she really helped me understand my characters.
Hmm.
And this is where I was having trouble with letting things go and finding
Right.
out secrets that my characters were keeping from me.
Hmm.
Um, I did a lot of back and forth with her, uh, and that was just understanding who my character was.
Hmm.
Um, Once I got past that stage, and I really felt I needed a little bit more in depth and I needed fresh eyes because
Right.
as much as I loved that editor I was working with, I thought she has seen this story so much now that
Yep.
she can't see it from fresh eyes, and neither can I, and we are stuck. I
Yep.
kept getting to one point where I was stuck. Um,
Right.
so that's when I thought, okay, I need I need fresh eyes. So
Right.
I actually went out searching. Initially, it wasn't to specifically work on the novel. It was just to work on my own writing. But
Hmm.
then I found an editor who was a book coach,
Oh,
and we
nice.
got into
Yeah.
back into my novel because at that stage I was really actually struggling um, with
Yeah.
whether I'd even continue with this story. I knew I would, but I was in a bad stage.
Yeah. Yeah. We've all been in that stage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
she really helped step things out for me from a developmental view and
Right.
actually showed me how to pull this story into so it would work.
Right. Made
And
it
gave
kind of
me
cohesive for you. And yeah.
Yeah, and gave me the tools that I needed so that
Yeah.
every scene that I wrote, because originally I was writing in chapters, and then she taught me how to write in scenes. And um, one thing she taught me was, yeah, scenes are for the writer, chapters are
Mhm.
for the reader. I always
Right.
remember that now; it's
Right.
ingrained in my head. Um,
That's actually
and a
really good
scene,
advice too. Yeah.
And a scene has to work. They have to have a
Hmm.
little goal. They have to have progressive complications. See,
Right.
I'm just parroting what I've learned.
No, it's
you
true
know,
though, because every
um,
scene needs to have a beginning, a middle, and end, the same as your
yeah,
story. They're just little mini story arcs inside
little
of
mini
your big
stories.
story arc. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was the developmental um editing that I did, all the structural editing.
Uh-huh.
Once I got through that, and I sent it back to her for the big picture, and it all worked. I thought, okay, I need another editor now to do the line editing.
Right.
And this is what we did then. And she went through every single line to make sure it was all working, no
Right.
repeats, or as less as possible. Things were
Right.
consistent. Um, the actual following, the third stage of editing is, your copy edit, your grammar and everything. I figured
Yeah.
I could do that. If I got to this point, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
And if I get it to a publisher, they're going to go through it again 7 times over anyway. So
Right.
let's progress.
I don't think we
So
were
yeah, that
quite
was a pretty,
seven, but we did go through it a couple times.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Many times
Well,
after you
and
had
like
it.
me myself, I went through it 3 times. So I did
Yeah,
my initial read, and then I did my editing actually 4 times because then I listened to it. That's kind of
yep.
my secret tool that I use. And it's not so secret. A lot of editors do it, and
No,
writers
I
should
do
do it
that
too.
too.
I will
Yeah,
listen to it being read out loud by my computer because
yep,
it forces me to slow down and look at every single word. And I always
yep.
find missing words or wrong words by doing that. So
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
a pass for that, and then I did my final read through. So
Yeah.
yeah, just
Well,
me was four
after it
times.
left you, after
It
it
got
left you and
another,
came back to me,
yeah,
I think we did another 4 passes over it,
wow,
to pick up all the and even then I picked up
yeah,
inconsistencies that I had to go, which I've got, oh my God, I've got to change this, like this doesn't work.
yeah,
So yeah, it really is
it's a
a
process.
very it's a very important process.
It
You
is.
can't just write a story and put it out there to the world.
Right.
It takes multiple passes over. But every pass is absolutely worth it, even the 10
It is.
hours I spent doing it.
And I like what you said about having fresh eyes on it because that's a really big, important piece of the puzzle. Because when
Yeah,
you've been through it so many times, you can't
you
see
miss
what's
things.
right
You
in
miss
front of your
things.
face, because you've seen it so many times. Your brain is just like, this is what it is. And I know it's this, so I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
with that. And
So I have no
yeah,
drama having used those three
yeah,
different editors because
yeah,
everyone brought something different, but I used them
right,
for different stages.
right.
But yeah, and yeah, the editing part is so important. But look,
Yeah.
let's move on to the next question I have
Okay.
for you. Okay, so before you guys even knew this story existed,
Hmm.
okay, one of my previous editors, as I said, um, partway through her editing, she messaged me to say how much she was really enjoying the story and she had to keep focused to stay in the editing mode, which I
Hmm.
thought was it was actually really lovely
Huge
message to
compliment.
receive,
Yeah.
when I got the edits back in that section at that point where she had sent me the message, I realized the edits had waned away. And I thought, has she skipped this chapter? Because I remember that's when she messaged me, And
Yeah.
um, anyway, when I got your edits back in, it was around the exact same time
Hmm.
that I realized the edits were waning away. And I wondered, were you so pulled into the story that you actually forgot to edit? You
There there were a couple of places where that happened, actually. I don't want to give spoilers, so I'll
No,
just say that one of those places was in a facility and one of those places was on the mountain. But
yeah,
yes, because you get so absorbed in what's happening, you almost can't help it. And then you get a little further down the road, and all of a sudden you're like, you see something, and you're like, oh, wait. I got to go back and do my job now and make sure I didn't miss anything because you would just slip into reading almost for pleasure instead of with purpose.
yeah. See, that to
because
me tells me that the story
yeah,
has worked. That has actually pulled
yes,
you so
yes.
far in. You have forgotten your job.
Yes,
So,
because when
um,
you're editing, you're reading with purpose, to look for things
yeah,
and find things, and your editor's brain is very different from your
yeah.
reading for pleasure brain.
And
That's a
that's why I
whole
brought
other
it up
thing.
because I thought it odd that it was in
Yeah,
exactly the same place in the
yeah.
book where I thought,
That
oh,
that
look
is
at
really
this.
interesting.
I
And the
wonder,
scene that
you
you're
know,
talking about, I like I said, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there was a lot of action in that scene, and
yeah,
it was very tense, and
yeah,
your character was really digging deep, and I think that had a lot to do with it because
yeah,
you get so deep in that character's point of view and in their journey that you're kind of busy rooting for them
yeah,
and cheering
yeah,
them on and trying to see what's going to happen next, that you do kind of forget that you're supposed to be doing a job.
yeah.
you know
I don't mind. It all worked out fine in the end. I
it
actually find it
did, it
pleasing to
did.
know that that's what the story did to you. And I'm
Yeah,
hoping that the
yeah,
readers who read this book will just get so pulled into this that they
yeah,
just forget where they are for a moment and they're actually
yeah.
in the story. So, which
Well,
would be
and
really
that's
fun.
the best kind of reading to do. I love stories
Yeah.
that make you forget that you're reading. You're just
Yeah.
suddenly in this other world, and you're this character. That character is you and you are them, and you're living this
Yeah.
story. Like that's how you want it to be.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
our goal as writers. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
um,
think I might
you
have got it right.
you
So
did
let's
it
see.
very, very well done. Very well done.
Yeah. Okay. My next question for you, because I think we might have skipped this one was with my little part one.
Oh,
Who is your favorite character and why?
I actually have two. So I was thinking about this a little bit, kind of beforehand when we were chit-chatting about who your favorite character was. And one of my two favorites is actually Merrick. And I think the reason that he's my favorite character is because he has so many different roles in the story. Like he's almost he's a leader for sure, but he's almost like an authority figure within his little group, almost to the point of being fatherly at times. Like he's strict and he's very, set in this is what we're doing. But then he's got this other side to him that's very tender and kind and understanding, and I appreciated that too. And you don't see
Yeah.
much of that because he's a soldier, but those little glimpses were really nice to see because it made him feel very human, very real,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I appreciate those multi-dimensional characters. So I
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
liked Merrick in the story. I feel like he added so much depth to their group, and he was kind of the glue that held everybody together.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Yeah.
everything that everybody did, they were always seeking his approval, and they were always wanting to make sure that it was okay with him and that he was on board, and when he gave orders they
Yeah.
listened, and I just really appreciated his role in the story.
Yeah,
So
I think it was, yeah, I think it's probably a bit deeper. It's not that they were seeking his approval, but they so trusted him.
right.
You
Well,
know,
when I say
and that's
seeking
what I
his
wanted
approval,
him. Yeah,
I mean on that deeper level, like
yeah,
he says do this and they're doing it and he's saying, well done. But for them it's part of, they're more than just a team, they're a family, you know?
they are. Yeah,
And
and that
and
was one.
that
Yeah,
yeah, and them knowing that he knows they did a good job, that there was a job well done. I think there's
yeah,
a level of really needing that from each other, from their leader
yeah,
especially, to know that that's the case because that's how they
yeah,
kind of cement their place on the team, right?
yeah,
And I just feel like he was so important to the story,
yeah, yeah. He
So he
certainly
was,
is.
yeah. And my second one is a little bit of a combination because we were talking about the memories and
Yeah,
cellular memory and stuff. So I loved I loved Sarah, and I loved the aspect of her with her mom's memories.
yeah,
Like that to me was so interesting. When I would read those parts, I would often like read it and then go back and read it again because I wanted to be sure that I was really understanding and that I really was comprehending what was going on, but also that I was feeling what Sarah was feeling when she's, living her mom's memories. And I just found that
Yeah.
to be so just interesting. And I really enjoyed that aspect of Sarah. So
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's not something that I've seen done very often. And this was certainly done really well. I mean, I've never seen it done quite like you did it, but it was done so well that, I mean, her mom, even though you don't ever meet her really, she's such a big part of the story because she's the driving force behind Sarah, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just it just adds that layer to Sarah too. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed that part of Sarah's
Yeah.
character.
I suppose I don't know if what I've done has ever been done before. I hope not, because then it's a first. Um, but
Right.
this was also what made it so challenging to write this story. So
Mhm.
I'm not, I mean, it's hard enough figuring out your main character. But
Right.
when your main character is four different people,
Right. That's
you know,
exactly it, is that
um,
she had these other layers to her, these other people
yeah,
in
that
essence.
when I look back, I never even
Yeah.
thought about it at the time. I just thought, yeah, we're just
Right.
going to do this. But when I think back, I think, God, I made it hard for myself. You know,
Well, but you did such a good job because, like I said, there were times I didn't reread because I was confused. I reread because it was really good and I wanted to really absorb what I had read. So I would
yeah.
read it
Well, maybe
again.
it's just, yeah, maybe it's just as well. I didn't realize it was going to be, it was a thing that would be hard.
You may not have wanted
Because
to do it if you had
well,
known.
if I didn't know it was going to be hard, I just did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is what
yeah,
we do. And it wasn't till
yeah.
afterwards when someone says to me, um, I think it was actually in one of those earlier reviews, was it's a somewhat challenging way to do this, and I've executed it well. And I
Mhm.
read that, you know what? I think I did. So
You're like, oh, I guess it was kind of challenging.
it was
But
challenging, yes.
yeah. No, you did a really
um,
good job. You did.
it
You did.
was fun. The whole
Well,
process was really fun. Yeah,
yeah.
trying to differentiate between all the different bits. So yeah.
So here's a question that's like that'll make your brain hurt a little bit. So when you're
Not much
when
more
you're
than already
writing,
is.
when you're writing and you're writing Sarah, so you're writing Sarah, so you're in Sarah's
Yep.
head, and then Sarah's mom is in Sarah's head, and
Yeah.
and you're trying to write Sarah's mom. I mean, are you in her mom's head, who's in Sarah's head, who's then do you know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah, I do. I
like
do
it's a
actually. I think I
whole
know what
nother
you mean. Yes.
character.
Yeah. Who
Yeah,
am I in?
yeah,
I'm in Sarah's head to start off with.
yeah.
She'll be seeing her or imagining her mother's memories.
Hmm.
But her mother, when she speaks, it's like Sarah is speaking. So then I need to have that sounding like her mother.
Right. So
But
you
I
had to know her
also
mother
need
too.
Yeah, but I also
Yeah.
need to show at the same time how
Mm,
Sarah reacts to that and how
right.
she's feeling about that. So
Right.
putting all that together in such a short space of
Hmm.
words, yeah, it's a bit tricky.
Well, right, because you
So
got to keep your pacing tight too, so you
you
can't
do,
you, you can't
you
spend too
can't.
much time. Yeah.
No, and I suppose this is why it did
Yeah.
take me a lot of rewrites to get this right, so that we weren't stopping, starting, and spending big chunks of prose explaining a little concept. I had to try and
Right.
sum it up into as
Yeah.
shorter words as possible. This is where short story writing really comes in handy. Um, yeah, no, I think, yeah, I did have to think, how would that character respond,
Yeah.
more so than anything. What would they be doing? How would they be feeling? And then put that in Sarah's head and then express
Yeah.
that in her mind, but also express how she felt when she remembered that,
Right.
So yeah, it
Right.
was yeah,
That's
there's a
why I
few
would
layers there.
sometimes go back and read the passage again because it was more like, okay, so this is Sarah, and then this is mom, and then this is how she feels about what her mom felt about her or something or
Yeah,
whatever the situation was. And it was a little bit of round and round we go, but that was why I would read it again. It's
yeah,
not that I wasn't confused, but I wanted to make sure that, I absorbed everything,
yeah.
every aspect of it, because it is really interesting way
Tricky.
to do that, and it is a little bit tricky, and a little bit of a mind messes with your head just a little. But that's good. That's what you wanted, right? So it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
good.
It all seemed to work. It all
It
worked.
did. It worked really well. It was great. So,
Okay, so I'll get on to my next question. What was your favorite part about editing the book?
um, I don't know that I necessarily have a single favorite part. I enjoy editing because I really like to help other authors kind of bring their stories so that they're ready to be out there and published. And I think when I'm working on a book and I start to just kind of fall in love with the characters as a reader, it makes it easier to edit them. So when I'm working on a story I really like yours, probably my favorite part of that is just when I start to realize how invested I am, as not just as an editor anymore, but also as a reader and as somebody who wants to see this story out there for everybody. I'm like, okay, I've got to do a good job, then I
Yeah,
I feel the pressure too, because I want to make sure that I'm doing justice to your story, because
yeah,
I'm invested at that point, and I love that feeling of like I care about these characters, and because of that, I mean, I edited your story without knowing you beforehand. So I was
yeah,
invested in your story, but through your story I became invested in you, and
yeah,
that becomes my favorite part of editing, is I'm realizing doing this work and feeling this way about this story is going to benefit the author, which is my ultimate goal,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
No, well, I
So,
do truly appreciate the edits that you did. I think it brought out as well as tightened the. We also, you know,
yeah.
expanded some areas to give it more depth, that you
Right.
identified. Can we, do something here? And I've taken that on board and gone, yeah, we can, you know.
Yeah.
So that was really good. Real and I think as a writer, that's what you need
Yeah.
is someone at the other end to say, yeah, look, this is great, but you can do better, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I
yeah,
and I and I think when you're as an editor, when you become invested like that in a story, it you kind of look for those places where you can say, yeah, let's have a little more depth here. Let's make it even better, you know,
yeah.
just by a few words or a sentence, is going to really
Or a
add
complete
something.
scene rewrite. Thank you.
Yeah.
There was one part.
Yeah.
No, there was one part
Yeah.
that you highlighted
I
further down the
remember.
story, and I looked at it and I thought, okay, I can see what you mean.
Uh-huh.
What I need to do here, I think it was just a bit out of sync. It was action and
Yeah.
dialogue, and things were out of sync, and I thought, okay, how can
Right.
I do this? I end up thinking, okay, we can restructure this by
Yeah.
rewriting it, which is
Yeah.
my favorite thing to do, rewriting. Yeah. Um, but then during that rewriting, I suddenly realized that's where I found, oh my God, this can't work for this X, Y, and Z, which X was back in, chapter
Right.
18, Y was in chapter 20, and here I am
Right.
in Z on chapter 23, you know. And so
Right. But
sometimes
that
that's
happens a lot. I've heard and I've experienced this with other authors I've worked with too, is it sometimes as an editor, when you point something out, it's not necessarily that we know the ultimate answer of how to fix it, but you see it, the author sees it and is like, "Oh, I
yeah,
there's a whole other problem here, and this
yeah,
little thing you noticed highlighted for me this other problem, and then you're able to fix it, which is really,
yeah.
it sounds like what happened there, so that's a good thing
It is a
to,
good thing because
yeah,
and that did take a little bit of reworking,
yeah.
because then I had to say, okay, what am I going to do here?
Hmm.
Which meant so. you change one thing in a story when you're getting this far
Right.
through it. You change one thing, it has a ripple effect.
It does.
And so
It
you've got
does.
to go back through all those little ripples and find, okay, where does it start? And
Right.
then you start from there and work your way back to where you're up to that editing
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that did happen a couple of times in the edits after I got them back from you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a fast process,
Yeah.
um, but it's so necessary. You know,
It
you,
is.
you
It
you
is.
can never underestimate the editing. There can never be enough edits on it. Um, I kind of know when I'm done with editing when it's well on this round because I think I read it maybe 4 times after I got it back from the final edits from Black Air Press,
Right.
and I read it. Yeah, well, during that process, I did major editing through it, checking everything, every
Yeah.
single line.
Yeah.
I did that 4 times. And still, I need to change this. We need to tweak this. I need to change
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
my way of knowing when I'm done is when I can sleep at night.
Yeah.
Because if I go to bed at night and I'm still thinking about something, then it's wrong.
Then you're
It
thinking it's not
yeah,
right yet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I am pleased to say that I have been sleeping well.
That's awesome. Believe it or
Yeah.
not, we are actually almost out of time.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
have
Well,
any other questions,
one
yeah.
last really quick
Okay.
question then. Um, some of my very earlier readers, after they read this book, I noticed a positive change in their outlook. When you've finished reading this book as a reader, how has your life changed? Or how
Um,
has this story changed your life?
One way this story impacted me actually was I lost my mom about 10 years ago, and it was very unexpected. And to read a story about a young woman who has memories that come directly from her mom, that really kind of spoke to me on a different level than a story normally would. And so for me, the impact that it had was almost kind of an emotional
Yeah,
impact because it made me think more about my mom. I mean, after 10 years, you don't find yourself thinking about a person every single day anymore, but
yeah,
it brought those memories back up, and it made me realize, man, I wish that I had more time. I wish that I had more memories. I wish that, Sarah knew her mom in a totally different way because she had her memories.
yeah,
And it kind of gave me pause to think about my own mom and the things that I valued in that relationship. So honestly, as just a reader, not even an editor, but as just a reader, that was really valuable to me because
yeah.
I loved my mom a lot
Wow.
and I miss her. So
Yeah,
that was really valuable to me.
yeah.
So
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
well,
you.
I mean, I lost my mum quite a few years ago, and my dad when
Mhm.
I was thinking about um, the dedication in
Mhm.
this to my mum and dad. Um, uh, yeah, the the dedication that I left was to mum who never knew and
Uh,
dad who would be proud.
oh,
Now, my mum never knew
I
I was a
love it.
writer.
Oh,
No,
really? Oh,
never.
wow.
She passed away before I even started writing.
Wow.
So she never knew. Um, my dad was always my biggest supporter. And he would be so proud of this.
Yeah.
So that was the reason behind the
Yeah.
dedication.
Yeah.
Um, it also felt right for the book
Hmm.
because Sarah's mum never knew what she became or who she
Right.
was.
Right.
And Sarah's dad was always so proud.
Yeah.
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 So it kind of
Yeah.
fits.
No, it was like that theme of, that underlying theme in the story about her own family and stuff was really um just really resonated with me, and
Yeah.
I hope that there's going to be more people like that out there who find that part of the story really, a
Yeah.
a
Well,
deeper level.
the guts of the story is that family really is important. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be blood, but
right.
family is
Hmm.
really important, and I think that comes through in this book. And I
It
hope
does.
people can take
It
a
does.
lot away from that for what in however they take away from it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are out of time, but thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank
This
you,
has been a
Jody.
lot of fun. And one more time, tell us when your book comes out.
Okay, so Memories Don't Lie releases on March the 11th, which is very, very close now.
It
Very
is.
exciting.
It is very soon.
Um, my fabulous publisher, Black Hare Press, they have created the most amazing book put together. When they sent me through the print copy, I was just blown away. With what they've done with this, how they've put it together with all the
Mhm.
internal artwork. I would like to give credit to my daughter, who actually was involved in some of the internal artwork, because I said to her, she's been a big part of this journey of me writing the book as well. And
Mhm.
I asked her, could she draw my characters, and bring them to life on
Uh-huh.
page, because she's a bit of an artist. So she
Yeah.
did, and she did such a
Oh,
great job.
wow.
So all those little silhouette photos that you might see in all the
Oh, I have
promos,
seen those. Your daughter did that?
those those
Wow.
are from my daughter.
Hey,
She is credited in the book, as she should
awesome.
be.
Yeah.
She's done an amazing job. And I think she's
Yes.
currently making me up some more because I've asked her for some more.
Awesome. Yes,
So,
tell her well done. Yes. Very good.
yeah,
Very good.
so look, yeah, thank you to you. Thank you to Black Hair Press. Honestly, this production, the publication of this story and the way they put it together, has just blown me away. I
Yeah.
could not be happier with everything. So thank you.
Yeah. They are great. I agree. I mean, I work for them. They're great. Yeah. So really
Yeah,
quick,
the artwork.
you've got about a
Yeah.
minute. Tell everybody again where to find you online.
Okay, you can find me on at paulineyates.com, and that will send you everywhere. You'll find everything about my book, all my links on Goodreads and what is it? BookBub. Um,
Mhm.
Twitter and Instagram, and oh, I'm even on TikTok. Yeah, that's
Oh.
hilarious. So,
That's great.
um, and yeah, so that's where you'll find all my links. I'd
Okay.
love it if you all followed me there, so you can keep up to date with anything coming out about the book, which I try and keep updated fairly regularly. And exciting news maybe soon. I don't know when, but soon, maybe with the next installment coming out. I even have a title for it. So, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we'll keep that a surprise because we are out of time.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Okay.
Jody.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Bye.